Thank you, all of you, for joining us today. It's a true pleasure to spend the next 45 minutes with all of you ladies. So my name is Ingrid Gonzalez, and just want to share a little bit about my background. I grew up in the mountain in the south of France. I'm from a very poor family, very international background, Italian and Spanish. I grew up in a town of 500 people. They were more animal than human beings. But with determination and grit, I graduated from a master's degree in entrepreneurship from one of the top business schools in Europe. So I've been spending 17 years in tech. I work in 3 different continents for the largest tech company in the world, IBM, Dell, Microsoft. And I've been working at Google as a Google Cloud Sales Director in New York for the past 4 years. But today I'm here to present 2 amazing organizations. One is Google and the other one is Positive Planet. Last year was one of the saddest years in decades. People were dying, people were suffering, people were isolated, and poverty became an important topic here in America and everywhere in the world. So I decided to jump and sign up for a new challenge and contribute to build a better world and a more inclusive world. So I became the president and the chairwoman of Positive Planet US, a 22 years old nonprofit organization that helps people living poverty through entrepreneurship. So our first project is called Women Accelerator Hub, to help women to leave poverty and create their own job. So if you want to support us, please visit positiveplanetus.org, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. Thank you.
Well, wonderful. I guess if we're going by order of jumped in, the next would be Miss Lauren Hassoun, or Hassan. Sorry, I keep messing it up.
Right, you want to make it fancier than it is. It's just Hassan. Thanks, Stacey. So I'm Lauren Hassan. I wear 2 hats as well. By day, I work remotely from my home in Dallas for a Silicon Valley payments company where I am a principal software engineer, and I'm the architect of our voice payment system, our messaging capabilities, our e-bill, business portable, analytics, you name it. I'm in charge of it. Also was previously in charge of all of application security. What I'm more known for is being the founder of Developer, which is a technology platform that helps women in tech get ahead, stand out, and earn more money in their tech careers. I not only work with individual women and have a best-selling book that shows them step-by-step how to get ahead, build your brand, and build your value, but I also have an award-winning course that helps women negotiate anywhere from $30,000 to all the way up to $80,000 more in a single negotiation. I also work with universities to get ahead of the opportunity gap in tech and wage gap before it even starts. And then I also work with technology companies to help their leaders identify and build their own bench of women in tech, and then help the women in tech at corporations at scale build their value and rise into leadership positions.
So everything. You 2, at least at the start, you're just doing everything. I'm sure we're going to get even more everything when it comes down to Diana Ague as well. And then, of course, with Dr. Jen Welter. Come on. Diana, you're still on mute.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. Firstly, it's raining cat and dogs where I am. So I apologize in advance for any noise. The rain just started like this. So, but nice to be here. And thank you all for joining. To everybody that's joined us online, we appreciate you guys joining us. So I'm Diana. I'm originally from Nigeria, but I grew up in the UK, where I studied law and then criminology, because I always wanted to be a judge. And somehow I found myself in technology and project management. So I spent, the last 18 years working between technology, and financial services. And, worn many hats. I've been a project manager, I've worked in the PMO space, I've been a business manager, I've been a COO, chief of staff. It's just been very interesting as I've evolved, in my career. More recently, I was the global head of strategy for marketing and communications and people for Capgemini, who's a consulting organization with 270,000 employees. And right now, I am the chief listener and the CEO of Curain Healthcare Services. And, in our portfolio, we do home care, healthcare services, healthcare solutions, as well as advocacy. I also am privileged, I use the word privileged, to sit on the board of Positive Planet with the amazing Ingrid Gonzalez. She's our president, and I'm on the board. I sit on a few other boards, so clearly something is going on there. One of the ones that I'm proud of as well is iRead, which is part of the Adopt a School program that I sit on actually in my local church as well. So it's a pleasure to be here. Nice to meet all of you.
And finally, last but certainly not least, the literal groundbreaker, or line breaker is the best way I could describe her, Dr. Jen Welter.
Well, thank you all for having me. I am probably the only one who is not officially in tech, though I am in some tech because technically I'm in a few video games. So I don't know if that counts, because you can find me both in Coach Jen's worlds in Minecraft and in Madden as the first female head coach. So the first female playable character, and to play myself. But I am best known as the first female to have coached in the National Football League with the Arizona Cardinals in 2015. Longtime women's football vet before that, with a master's degree in sports psychology and a PhD in psychology. So whether it's on the field or in the game, I just mess with minds for a living. And so have jumped into a lot of different conversations on how we could change the socialization around different things, and how we think about inclusion, and can change the narratives. You'll see back there, that is actually my smile on a bag of Lay's. And so I really could be found anywhere from video games to potato chip bags. And always a disruptor. So, if Lauren is the developer, I am probably the disruptor or the instigator.
I know exactly who to look to, or at least look for if I hear crunching in a movie theater, right? And then I'll see you there.
Yeah, that's mostly the tackling kind, though. So you probably know I was going to be there if you heard the crunching.
Well, and finally, I guess there's myself. Hi, I'm your moderator for today's panel. My name is Stacy Devono. By day, I am a principal engineer in charge of all things fun at Stitch Fix with regards to Android engineering. But I also, on the side, am everything from a woman who code evangelist, Intel innovator. I just finished 4 years on effectively the board of Google Developer Communities North America, and 2 years as the leader for North America and Canada for the Women Tech Makers organization from the core community side. And I also organize a few meetups and do a lot of work on an international level with women's advocacy in tech and diversity in tech advocacy groups. So if you have any questions, and I totally forgot, I do a lot of tech speaking. So if you see me show up in various places, I do everything from kind of career talks to tech deep dives down to kernel initialization in Linux. So you can imagine the scope of things. But I also wanted to really just say, this is an amazing and diverse panel of women leaders in various facets and all with different backgrounds. We have everyone from deep tech to the business side, coming in from law, and also just coming in from a totally unexpected place. Dr. Jen Welter, I had the privilege of meeting you almost, what was this? It's almost been 10 years, isn't it? It's been about 10 years. And it's just amazing, the facets. And we met through tech. So it's amazing to think about the facets of what leadership is. And even though this is a women tech conference, just to think about that leadership kind of expands beyond the tech boundaries, and how you find yourself here doesn't matter where you came from. And to that degree, I wanted to ask, how did you find yourself in a formalized leadership role? And we're not going to necessarily take turns, whoever wants to speak out first. But I do want to make sure each person has time to be able to give their comment on this. How did you find yourself in a formalized leadership role? What was that step like? It's always scary, right? But I want to kind of hear a little bit of your story.
I'll jump. So I just wasn't sure if you were going to call on anyone. So for me, I just pulled up a chair and sat down at the table. It wasn't that anyone, over and over again in my life, everyone thinks that someone's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, now you're ready to be a leader. For me, that's never how it's worked. It's always been, okay, something needs to get done. I see the need and the opportunity. I sit down and I get it done, whether that was in technical leadership roles in my career, where I was just going and leading the way to get a project done or move, a new product through, all the way to developer. You'll never be ready. I've never been fully ready. It's kind of like you build the airplane as you fly it. And so for me, it was just taking that first step and taking that action, recognizing opportunity, not waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder or give you a chair, but just going up and sitting down and owning your space.
I love that. And I'll echo that in the sense that I think I've had a little bit of both. I've had to pull up my chair and sit down. I've had to, build the chair myself most times. And I've definitely had opportunities. I have to say, much as I've had bad managers, I've also had some amazing managers, and I will never forget, for example, one of my previous leaders when I was in Morgan Stanley. We shared that, Lauren, and he always will push me, Michael Horton, push me and nominate me and make me do stuff. And it's kind of like what you just said, do it afraid. And so I've definitely had those instances where I've been fortunate enough where I always get nominated for stuff. I always get pushed forward. But there are times when, I've had to build a chair. And I think if I look a lot around my career and some of the work that I've done outside of work, especially in advocacy, in working on some of the boards, it's literally just been creating things, most of the time from scratch, realizing that there's a need and just creating it. And, I think if you could ask my husband, he'll tell you that I'm a people encourager. You come and tell me an idea, I'll make you do it. I'll make you start. I'll push you. I'll check in on you. And that's just some of the things that I found. But from a leadership perspective, I think it's definitely been interesting when you've brought your chair to the table and then trying to make that change, right? Because you brought the chair. So, people maybe weren't expecting you. And so success is really the only way forward, and I'll stop there so that maybe Dr. Jen and Ingrid can jump in.
I guess I'll go. So for me, I was always a leader in the way that I played football. I never was the huddle caller or the captain, because I always felt like I had so much more to do in terms of what I could contribute and wanted to be the very best that I could be. Now, if somebody asked me, that was different. Absolutely, I'll help you. I'll give you whatever you want. But for me, it was the energy that I could bring, how I played, and also seeing that the game had so far to go and could be innovated. I say that the promise I made when I started playing football was to step up to every challenge that the game put in my way, because at that time there wasn't a future or a place for space for women necessarily to aspire to. There were no women coaching in the National Football League. There wasn't a U.S. national team, any of those. So we had to put our heads down and play to the very best that we could, and then step up to challenges and prepare ourselves. Like for me, getting my master's and my PhD was about how I could create a unique value proposition to the sport. Could I take this practical experience that was unique, being one of the best in the world, and also put it with the theoretical knowledge so that I would always have value? And so for me, that's always been the case of just, how do I add value to this situation? How do I look at it differently? And how do I make sure that whatever, bench I pull up or locker room I go into, that I'm adding value? And the way that I transitioned into the men's world was actually by playing. So yet again, I was on the same field, doing the same thing, taking the same hits, and I earned their respect, which then gave me the opportunity to increasingly not only lead in how I played, but to bring my voice and perspectives to the sport as a coach, and then as an innovator or disruptor.
Wonderful. Yeah. So in my case, I think I wanted to bring a different angle, because I think that, as you know, like working in tech, starting 17 years ago, I was most of the time, for not saying 100% of the time, the only woman in the room. So definitely you had to have a seat at the table and take it. As a woman, you had to perform, overperform. Sometimes it was not enough. But definitely thinking big and be bold is something I wanted to share with the audience. And believing in yourself, it's absolutely critical to build a career. So very early on, I started to create a plan. I had a vision where I wanted to go. And once you have that clear goal, and you were able to articulate your career goal, I was able to raise a hand and ask for people around me to mentor me, to help me. And definitely my first mentor when I started IBM helped me to shape my career plan. And all these years, I learned how to raise a hand and ask for help. This is what led me to my first leadership role when I was at Microsoft, when I met this amazing woman named Laura Wallace as general manager at Microsoft. And I was, very articulate and purposeful about what I wanted to accomplish, what was my value, what could I bring to an organization, why me, why now? And then she decided to give me a hand and say, okay, we are going to give you a chance, Ingrid. And since then, I've been amazed by every time I raise a hand, was a man or a woman, I found allies in the room or allies in my network. And I create a very strong network in order to be able to support my career growth.
Wow, I'm hearing some amazing themes from these women, that it is very much mission driven and action oriented. And a little bit about, well, really, kind of the self-confidence starts with you, but it isn't just from you. You can find ways to magnify. And once you've talked a little bit, especially Ingrid, about building your network and kind of that reaching out, when it comes to leadership, what does bringing your whole self mean? That's really, the premise of this leadership talk. What does bringing your whole self mean? And whoever wants to chime in first, absolutely do so.
I can go on this one. So, for me, it's interesting because a lot of the situations that I'm in are, just X's and O's. It is being a football coach, and yet there wasn't anybody that was leading who was like me. And so I got two really good pieces of advice. One was Terry Glenn, who was giving me advice before I went to the Cardinals. And he said, Jen, the best advice I can give you is to be 100% authentic. If you are exactly the same person there that you were here with us every day, those guys will absolutely love you. But if you're fake in any way, they will sense it and eat you alive. So I couldn't coach like someone else because there was no one else like me. And so I had to be confident enough to trust what had gotten me into the door and what had gotten me that far. Now, the other piece of advice I got was from Daryl Drake, who was the receivers coach for the Cardinals. And he said, Coach, I got to ask you, what do you think you can bring to this game? And I was like, I don't know. All right. Like, hopefully football. And he's like, let me tell you, old guys like me have been coaching longer than you've been alive. We're going to know some more X's and O's than you do. And that's okay. We can teach those to you. But what none of these dudes has on this staff is a PhD. And the psychology for these players is so important. Don't you dare leave that when you get into those coaches' meetings, because you're the only one who has that insight, and that you have more than any other person on this staff. And so it was interesting because some of the places and spaces, they'll say, just stay in your lane. And that means, just X's and O's, or this is this one little box that you fit in. And yet the people who have really pushed me to be my best self were the ones who said, don't you dare leave part of what makes you great at the door. And if we are talking diversity and inclusion and a different voice in the room, that means you owe it to the room to present all of the information that you have and the perspective and clarity that is uniquely yours.
Incredibly powerful, really powerful. Anybody else like to comment? What bringing your whole self actually means, at least to you?
Yeah, I can follow. I think, bringing my whole self to the world and to companies, it's really about a topic that is very dear to my heart, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And for me, everywhere I go, it's extremely important to make sure that I have a voice and I execute that voice. And for that, you have to lead by example. So I wanted to give you 2 examples. Last year was a very challenging year for all of us. And I was not doing great. I was isolated. I was far from my family. So I decided, I went to HR. I made a decision to say, well, listen, I'm isolated in New York and I want to go back to Europe. I wanted to be close to my family, because if I'm well, the people around me are going to be well and my team is going to do well. So I broke the rule. I made the ask. I raised a hand and I said, this is what I need for me to be my whole self and to bring my best to my organization, to Google, and definitely to my team. So I went through a very challenging process, but I did it. So I moved back to Europe, 6 months. I was good. I was happy. I was healthier. And then I bring that back to my organization, back to my team with my full self. And at the end of the day, we ended as the top performing team in the United States. And just wanted to say, if you definitely lead by example and show your team that they can do it, because you do it, and so that you can serve your community around you. The second thing I wanted to share about bringing you all self. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, we talk a lot about it, but then you have to lead by example and you have to take actions. So when I created my board of directors at Positive Planet, for me was non-negotiable. I wanted to have a diverse board. And today I'm very proud to say that we have 50% of women and 50% of men. Same thing at Google. When I hire a new team member, I ask the human resource to bring me candidates that are diverse and they are coming from different backgrounds, different countries, because I truly believe what diversity, equity, inclusion bring to an organization in terms of performance and in terms of innovation. So let's make some action, and this is the way I'm bringing my own self to the world I'm surrounded.
So building on the raising your hand for what you need, me bringing my whole self is not just taking care of my career, but investing in my whole self, whether that's my financial well-being, whether that's my mental well-being, and mental health, my physical health. In my book, I talk an entire chapter about all the different ways I invest in myself. And it's not just my career, it's in building my support network, both at work and professionally, and then also personally. It's taking care of my health. The better health I am in personally, the better I show up at work. You take care of one area of your life and it spills over into others. And then, I also talk about it. I don't just do it, but I talk about it, not only, with my developer network and publicly, but I also make sure people at work know that, hey, I'm learning to cook, or I'm working out and taking time for that, because part of the reason, part of the role of being a leader is making it okay for other people to do it too. And I've been fortunate that I've had leaders who said, yeah, I'm not available right now. I'm working out in the middle of the day. And that made a real impact on me. And so my way of paying it forward is saying, hey, look, I am also prioritizing myself, not just my professional self, but my whole self.
So, I echo what all the ladies have said. So when I think about, bringing your whole self, again, I think goes back to what Dr. Jen was talking about. Being yourself, being authentic. being that same person. Don't be somebody else at play, at work, in any other sort of endeavors that you do. So I think of three things, right? If you think of a boardroom, for example, you've earned the seat or you built the seat, however you got to the boardroom, you're now in the boardroom, right? So I always sort of go by this rules, which is challenge the status quo, speak up, step outside of your comfort zone. To me, those are the things that I do, that I implement to bring my true self to the table. When you're working with Ingrid, I'm sure she'll tell you I'm not afraid to speak up in a room. If I disagree with something, I'll say it. As long as you do it respectfully, make sure that you don't just sit and accept. So that's to me what that means. If we were talking about this, I think the other day, if you think that there's a lack of diversity at work, advocate for that. Raise your hand, do that. One of the things that I did was I created Women Leaders Roundtable in Capgemini. I thought, there's lack of diversity at the senior levels. I created a group. Then I instituted like a monthly hiring day where I insisted that the recruitment team, along with the leaders, actually hire a certain number of women every day. This is aside, this is focused on gender diversity, but this is aside from the recruitment activities and the exercises that we have to do. So now we have a monthly gender diversity hiring day currently, in Capgemini, because I instituted that, because I could see that, perhaps we needed some guidance in terms of how we were focusing on that. So that's what that means to me. It's not just talking the talk, but walking the work and making sure that I'm showing that, so I'm a caring person. I want to care about the team around me. I want to be myself. I don't just want to, I want to be a tough lady, so you guys are afraid of me and that's it. But how are you doing today? Checking up with people. A lot of people talk about my laughter. I love to laugh. I'm enthusiastic. I'm happy. I bring that to the table as well. Just being you. Because if you built the seat, if you got invited to the boardroom, if you found your way through the window, either way, you're there now, and make that voice count.
It really stands out to me, especially that the theme here is about bringing your whole self inherently brings trust, and trust is how you actually gain loyalty and respect.
Yeah, well said.
With the ability to speak honestly. And so trust is the avenue in which we can actually build up the morality and the code at which we like to work, especially I would say in the tech world, because you can't do it all and you have no oversight and you don't even necessarily know the work that somebody else is doing, and even for the ability to overlook it, that you actually need that trust in order to actually work effectively and to have teamwork. And you, as an example, end up becoming that leader in that role. So it's kind of it's really interesting to me how it's all around the same kind of themes, but how you get there and what it means to you are individual. And I love all of the different perspectives brought here today. So we don't have that much time left. So finally, I wanted to ask one last question, which is, where are you currently trying to level up? Where are you actually working on yourself, on personal development?
All right. Diana, go ahead, please. Please. Okay. So this year, I decided to invest in myself, and I finally decided to work with an executive coach. Because as I mentioned to all of you ladies, I think it was important. I'm in a point in my career where I have a voice and I want to make sure I communicate accordingly. Participating to events, I'm helping other women to raise and grow with me. So it's something that helped me a lot. As you know, English is not my first language, so I'm always a little bit scared to be in public speaking. So I had to really force myself to do, because I do know that I can share. I have a story, I have an expertise and experience that can serve and others, and I'm really ready to do that and to give a hand at my turn. So it's something that I've been working on the weekly base.
So I'll share two in a very interesting way. So I've been working on practicing a lot of listening. I think, as leaders, people talk about listening and you're expected to listen, but are you listening, right? Because, the art of listening is hearing what wasn't said. And I think, more amongst other things, right? And more importantly for me also in the business that we're in home care, in healthcare, right? It's a very crucial aspect of our lives, making sure that we can actually, look after our clients, those people that put that trust in us. So that's something I've been working on. So a little bit different, but really just working on listening and really reading in between the lines and understanding what was not said, what was left on the table, so I could come back and look for how I can, support where necessary. One other thing that I've been doing as well is really just studying ferociously. Kenny Rogers has a song, and I apologize in advance because I'm going to sing the song, which is The Gambler. And he said, if you're going to play the game right, if you're going to play the game, you have to learn how to play the game. So he said, you got to know when to hold, know when to fold, and know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough to count them when the dealing's done. So learning, how to do all those different things, in the different rooms that I'm privileged to be in, knowing when to hold, right? Knowing when to listen, knowing when to fold, knowing when to walk away. So I made sure that I really focused a lot on self-development and just studying, just so as much as I can. So I'm very much aware of my surroundings. And of course, last but not least, practicing self-care. I have 2 young kids, so it's very challenging getting any rest, but making sure that I invest in myself and invest in some personal time, but I thought I'll share those first 2.
Well, you should also sing more in meetings because you have a great voice. So I think bringing your whole self into the meeting was what you just did and brought that whole voice because it was beautiful.
Thank you, Jen.
You are so welcome. So I'll say kind of what I've been working on leveling up with myself is to actually think bigger than just the circle that I'm used to being in, which is like the world of football. And actually how some of these messages could, go or empower, right? It's not, being literally the one woman doing something is unique in football at that time, but those lessons can be a lot bigger, right? Like being winning in the boys club and some of that. So surrounding myself with great people who are doing disruptive things in other industries, and then looking at joining and providing that alternative for some more companies. I have joined a few boards, which is fun because I always am the one who sees things differently. And then I am looking at starting a nonprofit as well, because especially the stuff that we've been doing with Gridiron Girls and empowering girls through the sport of football, we have to get bigger. And that means I need people who know how to do those bigger things. I am great in the one-on-one, but I lovingly tell people I should never be allowed to do evaluation on a company or even on myself because I played my football career for $1 a game. So I need some other experts near me that will not allow me to do that anymore.
Good thing. I'm in your phone, Jen, because I will tell you to advocate for your value. Never accept less than your worth. And mine's a little different. I've really reached where I'm at, where I want to be professionally. Reached my definition of success, and I'm lucky that I've done it relatively early in life. The one thing, and I looked at my life holistically and said, what's the one thing that I'm missing? And I gained a lot of weight along the way, and I'm not a healthy weight. And so about two years ago, I started a weight loss journey, and I've so far lost 65 pounds. And I've got more to go. So right now I'm really focusing on my physical health, and it's really been surprising to me how it's also translated to professional growth, relationship growth, and really impacted. I mean, I was happy before, and that was part of the reason I stay stuck at a heavier weight is I didn't realize how happy or how much happier I could be in all the different areas of my life. So for me, I'm taking the foot off the gas on professional and really focusing on personal front and taking care of my health, because I only get one body to take me through this entire life.
That's amazing. Everyone has a completely different facet I can go with a little bit of my stuff. I've actually been working a lot on soft skills and really developing into what is something that is not covered under anything is how to be a highly effective technical leader, especially from a higher standpoint. What does it look like to have all of those systems in your head and be able to orchestrate large groups of people in a very technical way, not just from a managerial standpoint, and be able to kind of speak to both skills. On another personal note, I am about 5.5 months pregnant. You can't really tell in the camera because
congratulations.
And I already have a small child, and it's really just been an amazing journey that I've been through in really figuring out prioritization and respecting. I've moved from being incredibly community oriented to now putting a little bit more back into my career and a little bit respecting what that is from community, instead of just saying, okay, I have done all these great things to like empower all of these women and get them started and their things continuing, but really refocusing to how to actually create wealth in underserved communities. Because to me, a lot of social issues, a lot of other issues are solved by avenues of wealth. So we are just a couple minutes. If anyone has any final remarks or other things they even just want to talk about, please do so.
I mean, I just want to build on what you just said, Stacey, about really creating wealth in underserved communities. I think one of the things that we're doing in Positive Planet is we have the Accelerator Hub program, which is a program that was designed for underserved women, specifically for that, to take them from idea to an actual business. Understanding that they don't have access to certain tools, or they may not be able to afford to go to fancy business school. And we're working with awesome partners, like Capgemini, Genpact, Dentsu, others, just to make sure that we bring the tools, the access, the systems, and then of course the leaders actually to coach. We partner with other amazing speakers. We have CEOs, CMOs, people that have, I'll be honest, donated their time to help on marketing, on your business, on financials, and how to raise funding, and how to pull together your financial plan, and just amazing different things. We even have a session on well-being. We have a psychiatric come and talk to us about well-being, because when you have a new business, you can lose yourself, and it's a lot. You're overwhelmed, and I think that's amazing work that Positive Planet is doing. Positive Planet US, obviously led by the incredible, Ingrid. So I just wanted to mention that. So go check us out. I think Anna put the link on. If you haven't, if you have a great business idea, please apply. If you want to be a volunteer, we welcome you as well. And if you want to donate, just support the cause.
Oh yeah, I absolutely believe, and I don't know how many people are willing to say this, that having a therapist or a therapy group or something along those lines is absolutely essential to kind of unlocking yourself. Just have someone who isn't your friend or family to talk your crap to and figure out what's in your head and what's not. All of those kinds of things. Go ahead.
It's a really good thing that you happen to have a PhD here on the phone then. I mean, I've got you all covered.
Yes.
And I'll always say about that, like, because people ask me all the time, like, you don't practice, because I don't. And I'm like, well, that's because most people can't afford me, but my friends get it for free. And we're all practicing psychology all the time, right? Like, none of us have all of the answers in all of the situations, but we practice learning people. And we practice learning ourselves, and we practice the fields of expression. And one of the things that I love in the evolution of leadership, and this is so important for all the women on, is the real topic around, finally, that empathy is a leadership trait. It's not just a female or a male trait. This is good leadership, point blank, period. The ability to see through somebody's eyes, to hear through their ears, to experience through their heart or play a game in their cleats, that is going to allow you to be better to everyone around you. And it was like not long ago that I remember, especially in my master's for, sports psych, we read all the leadership books and it never talked about empathy. It was a very masculine form of leadership. And it's important to understand that your human capital is your most valuable investment in yourself and in the teams that you build.
Last comment I wanted to make here, and I was looking at the chat. Yes, just help each other. Like just 5 minutes. I know everyone is very busy, but sometimes the 5 minutes, 30 minutes of your time and you connecting a woman to another woman can change their life, can give them a job, can give them hope, and have a very big impact. So I'm very honored to be with Dr. Jen, Diana Agu, Lauren, and Stacy today. I learned so much by that only experience, and it was just very enriching. So if you have the chance also at your turn to give that back to someone else, and we create a chain, and we can create a better and more positive world for all of us.
Ask yourself every day, are you acting in compassion?
Yes.
Right? In the actions that you do, in the things that you see, are you acting in compassion?
Awesome.
So wonderful. We are basically at time, and I do want to just say an amazing group of completely different leaders in many facets and different careers, different stages of careers, and yet the themes here ring true of quality leadership and just being yourself and bringing your whole self. So thank you again very much.